Yes, Geordies, welcome back to another episode. First thing I want to say is hope everyone's well and had a good weekend. And I say welcome back because we had a day off yesterday. I had a lovely weekend, to be honest. Yesterday, nice and chilled, and I hope you did too. Second thing I want to say is I'm glad that scratch on my face is gone. Third thing I want to say is instead of scratching my face, I'm scratching my nose in my sleep. What is going on? I feel like Pep Guardiola when he went absolutely berserk with Manchester City's poor results and started scratching his head for no reason like a crazy bloke. I swear this Newcastle United transfer window has got me going insane in my sleep. But despite all that, I remain positive because we've got a big week for Newcastle United. On Saturday, we take on Villa in our opening game of the Premier League season, and we still need to get bodies over the line. I'm exciting news, breaking news, and a lot of movement for Newcastle United this week. So I can imagine there's going to be a lot of videos on breaking news, scout reports. So make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them. But in this video, I want to talk about this big week ahead because we do have a big week ahead and why I'm still positive. Then we're going to talk about Malik Thiaw. The deal is very close. He's having his medical today. So that should put a smile on your face. Yoane Wissa, in my opinion, I think will get done. And then Lucas Paquetá is now become a real option for Newcastle United. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on him, why we still don't have a director of football. And then finally, I want to touch upon what we can do to make sure we don't have a summer like this again. So let's quickly touch upon what we needed going in this summer. So we needed a right centre-back, 2 midfielders, in my opinion, right winger, and 2 strikers, depending on the Alexander Isak situation, of course. The right centre-back looks like we're bringing somebody in. Malik Thiaw is having his medical today, so more likely that will get done in the next 24 hours. So make sure you hit that like button. Comment in the below if you're happy about that signing as well. We've already brought in Anthony Elanga so that our right wing position sorted, and we've also brought in Aaron Ramsdale on loan as a goalkeeper, but Martin Dubravka has left for Burnley. So that leaves us with 2 midfielders and 2 strikers to bring in. I do expect movement this week, to be honest. Now, it all depends on this Alexander Isak situation. That's why I say we need to make a decision as quickly and as early as possible, because if we let Alexander Isak go, we need to bring in a midfielder with creativity, because I don't think people understand how involved in our build-up and how much creativity Alexander Isak provided for us. He created the 3rd most shots in the Premier League in our squad, only behind Bruno and Jacob Murphy. And if you go back in our pre-season games, this is something that we've lacked. Anything that we've created has been from set pieces, so we're massively missing that spark, a bit of magic, a bit of life in that final third. So ideally, I would want to bring in a creative midfielder or an advanced number 8, and then somebody that's comfortable in all thirds of the pitch. Then we also need at least 1 striker to come in. Now, Yoane Wissa is probably going to get done, and then it all depends on the Alexander Isak situation. And this is why I say we have to get it resolved ASAP. If we sell Alexander Isak and then bring in Samu, we need to bring in a creative midfielder. So I'm expecting a lot of noise surrounding Newcastle United this week, and it is a big but exciting week for your fans, because you've got to be excited by it, because look, we've shown this window that we do have money to spend. That's why I'm positive. But I want to briefly talk about why we still don't have a director of football, and I made it clear that my opinion, we went in this window very negatively, and the reason I say that is because we did not replace Paul Mitchell as soon as we knew that he was departing. That was the moment we should have replaced Paul Mitchell, because we should have went in this window with a director of football. The fact that we've left everything down to Eddie Howe is our problem. I love the summer of ambition. I love clubs with ambition. That's exactly what we've shown this summer. And I've got no doubt Eddie Howe and his staff are working incredibly hard behind the scenes to make it a positive and successful window. Now, although I think we made a mistake not replacing Paul Mitchell as soon as we knew he was leaving, I actually agree with not bringing in a director of football right at this moment. Why is that? Because that doesn't really make any sense. One hand you're saying you want a director of football, the next hand you're saying you don't want a director of football. The reason I wouldn't bring in a director of football right now is because we've already changed our transfer strategy twice this summer. We can't do it for a 3rd time. So that's reason number 1. Reason number 2, Eddie Howe and his staff will already have targets lined up for this week. A new director of football might slightly see a different vision. So again, that could just disrupt what we're working towards. And thirdly, I've got no doubt that Eddie Howe and his staff have already opened negotiations with clubs, agents, and other director of football. So bringing in another voice into that could have a negative impact. So what I'm trying to say is bringing in another voice could disrupt everything because he could have a different idea and angle on how to approach and open and go through negotiations. So that is the reason why I wouldn't bring in a director of football right now. But as soon as the transfer window ends or we feel like we've got all the business done, that's when I would bring in our director of football. That way Eddie Howe can concentrate in the season ahead and preparing the team, and the director of football can concentrate on growing the football club. So I've said this before, the PIF lack of preparation is baffling. We've known for months that Paul Mitchell and Eddie Howe didn't see eye to eye, which ultimately leads to one of them leaving, which was always going to be Paul Mitchell. So as soon as we noticed that, got those signs, that's when we should have began our search for a director of football. If we did that, we would have had somebody coming in for this window. And you could say the same about our CEO. So what I'm saying is our summer already began on a negative. The lack of preparation has led us into this window without any direction, project, or anyone in place to run things off the field. And that's why I feel like Eddie Howe is running himself into the ground right now. So that got us thinking. I've also seen a couple of people say the PIF don't care. I actually disagree with that. Of course they care. Nobody spends this sort of money on a business without caring. And this is going to highlight exactly why I'm still positive. We've massively improved since he've come in on and off the field. Since he've come in, everything has been on an upwards trajectory. So of course, one or two hiccups were to be expected. But as soon as those hiccups come, you can't just throw your toys out the pram and say nobody cares. Of course they care. Have they made mistakes? Absolutely. Should they have replaced the director of football? Absolutely. But I kind of feel like because everything has been just on an upward trajectory, they kind of took the foot off the gas and thought, we've got Champions League now, we'll qualify for Champions League last season, everything's just going to fall into place. And they probably left it all down to Eddie Howe, saying we can trust him, but it's just too much for Eddie Howe to do all by himself. So as soon as we get a director of football in place, that's when I want to see us start really growing as a football club. I want to see sponsorships for the training ground, training kits, etc. That helps you comply with PSR. I want to see future planning, building a successful and balanced squad, market leverage, use global networks, negotiations, expertise to secure better deals. And then I want to see us boost our global expansion and potentially bring in a multi-club model. So yes, guys, I'm still positive and I do believe we will have a strong end of this summer. We hold all the cards in this Alexander Isak situation. He's under contract, and unless Liverpool meet his valuation, we don't have to sell. We also aren't being held back by PSR this window, just like we have been over the past 3 windows. And we've proven and shown that we've got money to spend. I mean, we've shown the willingness to spend 80, 70 million on a single player. So that just goes to show that we do have money to spend. I believe we will sign Malik Thiaw. I believe we will sign Yoane Wissa. And I do believe we'll get 1 or 2 more in this window. So I wanted to talk about Malik Thiaw and Yoane Wissa because I do like these signings. Now, would Yoane Wissa be my first choice? Probably not. Would Malik Thiaw be my first choice? Probably not. But I do like the both signings, and the both signings make sense. Yoane Wissa across the last 3 Premier League seasons had an expected goals of 34.79 and he scored 38 goals. That is absolutely insane. Last season, he scored 19 non-Premier League goals in the Premier League. That's only 1 behind Mohamed Salah. He's versatile across the front line. He can operate as a lone striker in a 2-tier system. Now, this is what I want to see from Newcastle United going into next season. Let's think about what Yoane Wissa is good at. He's quick, he's got excellent reaction speed, he's a willing runner, which makes him a transitional threat. So alongside Anthony Elanga and Anthony Gordon, we can be frightening. He thrives on broken play. Now remember that. Rebounds, loose balls, he's got excellent reaction speeds. So Wissa does his best work in like chaotic moments. Now let's talk about what Malik Thiaw would bring. So with Sven Botman being our left centre-back, the signing makes sense. He comes with experience, can operate in different tactical setups as well as different roles. He's a proactive defender, which is exactly what Eddie Howe likes. He's got an exciting build and a physical profile to develop. Now he's also comfortable in possession. Now this might sound crazy, but I would like him to be more risky with his distribution. Now why do you say that? Because he's a defender, so why should he be taking risks in possession? Firstly, let's look at what makes Newcastle United so exciting. Well, we can overturn the ball as high and as quickly as possible. That makes us dangerous in transition moments. Now, we're not so good against deeper blocks and low blocks. So how can we figure out a way of opening up those lower blocks? And you do that by taking risks. Now, if Malik Thiaw takes more risks in possession, I don't mind him losing possession. And the reason being is because we've got Yoane Wissa, who's got exceptionally quick speed of thought, reaction timing, and thrives on broken play. So what I mean by broken play is the moments where the ball goes loose or both teams are outside of their defensive structure. So think about it this way. If we have a defender that's got a 100% completion pass rate, that means he's recycling possession, keeping things simple and not really damaging the opposition. Now, what are Newcastle United extremely good at? Winning the ball back after the first 3 seconds of losing it. Watching Newcastle United, when we lose the ball, we're so aggressive trying to win the ball back. Because if you win that ball back, it means the opposition are out of their defensive shape. So I want my defenders to take a little bit more risk with their passing. I don't mind them losing it, because if you lose it, that puts you in a good position to try and force a high turnover. If you force that high turnover, that means you've got a better chance of scoring, because the opposition are outside of their defensive structure. So there's going to be more gaps in space to exploit. That is how you get the best out of Yoane Wissa. So it's all about figuring out ways to punish the opposition when they're vulnerable. So you've got 2 options here. If he takes more risk with these passing, which is exactly what I want to see, then you either the first ball that you play comes off and that risk turns into a reward, or you lose possession, but you're so aggressive that you win that second ball. Once you overturn that ball, you've got so much room to dive into and be dangerous, because we do our best work on counter-attacking systems. Does that make sense, guys? It makes sense in my head. Now, that got us thinking, because I thought about this summer and we needed a big summer because we need to build depth in our squad. But then I thought, next summer is just going to be the same, because next summer we're going to need something similar. So let's learn from our mistakes this summer and begin preparation now. So if you look at next summer, these are the players that will be too old and will need replacing. Next summer, Kieran Trippier is going to be 35. Dan Burns going to be 34. Fabian Shaw is going to be 34. Emil Kraft's going to be 32. Jamal Lascelles is going to be 32. Jacob Murphy's going to be 31. Nick Pope's going to be 34. Matt Targett's going to be 30. Now, you'd probably look at Jacob Murphy and think, he can still contribute, but there's always that uncertainty. So although we've brought in Malik Thiaw this summer, we're going to need to replace Fabian Shaw and Dan Burn next summer. So next summer, we're going to have to bring in another centre-back, because we'll only have Malick Thiaw and Sven Botman. We're going to need a right-back and a left-back. Ideally, if you bring somebody that could play both roles, we might need a right winger. Depends on Jacob Murphy's performances this season and if he's shown absolutely no signs of slowing down. And then next summer, we might need a striker, depending on if Alexander Isak leaves now or next summer. So next summer, we're going to have another busy window. And I don't know about you guys, but I really don't want another window like this. We'd have to go in there with preparation and a clear plan of what we want to achieve. Not all targets will get done, and that's just normal. But as long as you've got a succession plan in place, then you'll never get to this point. Because I kind of feel like the strikers that we've been linked to are all different profiles. So we've kind of been a little bit desperate because of the situation we're in. And I just really don't want to get to this stage next summer either. So what I mean by that is, can we look to identify targets that could maybe we sign this summer, loan them back to their parent club, and then they'll be ready for us after another season gathering some experience. Now, we all know Arsenal are interested in Jeremy Jacket, so I would like us to sign Giovani Leone. He's a centre-back who plays for Parma. He can play as a right centre-back, left centre-back, can play centrally or on the right of a back three, and he's also filled in at right back. Now, he's comfortable using 2 feet, though he slightly favours his right. He stands at 6'5". He's physically dominant in ground duels and aerial duels. He started 14 Serie A games last season for Parma, and he always delivered every time he stepped on the pitch. So what does Eddie Howe need or want in a centre-back? Somebody that's compact in the mid-block when out of possession, but also can quickly transition into a high press. Aggressive duelers with the ability to step out and engage, especially in those midfield zones. And they must be comfortable with the ball at the feet and playing out from the back. So what's his profile like and style of play? One of my favourite things about Giovani Leone is his reading of the game. He's very rarely caught out of position. Despite being 6'5", he's surprisingly mobile and adjusts well to quick changes of direction. He's aggressive and a towering figure in duels. He wins 70% of his ground duels, which is absolutely insane. He's comfortable defending wide spaces. This is crucial for our defensive system because we allow our fullbacks to advance. That means our centre-backs have to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And he's also a progressive passer, and he ranks in the top 38% of centre-backs in Europe for passing efficiency. I think it would be a real smart signing. It's not somebody that we need to come in and contribute right now. We can sign him, loan him back to Parma, and have him ready in preparation for next season. And we all know how good Eddie Howe is at working with players, developing players, improving weaknesses. And I think when you've got a profile like him, the upside of that transfer is absolutely massive, especially that he's only 18 years old. And that got us thinking, Kieran Trippier is probably leaving next season. Matt Targett's, in my opinion, not good enough. So that leaves us with 2 fully fit fullbacks. Now, I'm a big fan of some players coming out of our academy, but if I'm being truthful, they're not ready yet. I think they're going to have a wonderful career at Newcastle United, but right now, they're not ready, and I don't think they will be in a year's time. Look at William Masula, for example. He's older, with more experience, and even he still doesn't look ready. So that got us thinking. We've got Leo Sahar coming through, which is a massive positive because I'm excited about him. He's a good player. I think there's room for improvement. He's still raw, not ready, but he will have a good future at Newcastle United. And we've also got Tino and Lewis Hall, who are our tried and tested fullbacks for the future. But I do think we need more depth in both positions, especially with Kieran Trippier leaving. So I come to a conclusion, Alex Gimenez could be a very good option. Now, again, it doesn't necessarily need to be him as a name. I'm just talking about the profile of the player. We need to be targeting these types of profiles to continue our success and allow our players to rotate. And that got us thinking another position where I think we do need to strengthen this summer, and that is midfield. I'm worried about the lack of depth. I'm worried about the lack of rotation we're going to have. I'm worried about players doing burnout. I'm worried about the creativity when Bruno's missing. Now, I'm a type of guy that always wants to look for youngsters and giving youngsters an opportunity. And I sat there and I thought last night about Lucas Paquetá. And the more I thought about how much of a smart signing this would be. He's 27 and West Ham are reportedly opening and selling him for 45 to 50 million, which is down from the 85 million valuation in 2023. Now, we all know what happened with the betting scandal, but gladly that is now over and he's been cleared of all allegations. So I do think a move away from West Ham to put everything behind him is what he needs. A new environment with different faces just to bring back that love for football, because undoubtedly it probably left him last season. The more I think about this, the more I am in favour of this signing. And I tell you why, look at the upsides. He thrives as a number 10, so we can adjust our formation if needs be. But he also thrives as a number 8, so he can slot into our 4-3-3 system. He's 27, so he's coming into his prime years. He's got that Brazilian connection with Bruno and Big Joe. He also offers that creativity alongside Bruno. He's highly experienced with Champions League level ability, tactically flexible across the midfield and attack. He offers immediate impact, but still has 3 to 4 peak years ahead. And him and Bruno also play together at Lyon. Now, he also suits Eddie Howe's system. He's got a blend of flair and work rate, rare among attack midfielders. Ability to play in tight spaces, offering a link between midfield and attack. Technically gifted, composed, excellent speed of thought, and the ability to roam and create overloads in the final third. He's also got those creative playmaking instincts that helps reduce the workload of Bruno, but also adds an extra dimension in the final third. Now, his creativity comes best with the mobile striker, in my opinion, because Lucas Paquetá is the type of player that likes to move the ball into space. So pairing him up with someone like Isak, if he stays, Wissa or Samu could actually work. Now, he also thrives as a number 10 and a number 8, so he's got that ability to adapt to different instructions. When playing as a midfielder, he likes to drop deep, get involved in play, and help initiate in the build-up phase. When playing in more advanced roles, like a number 10, he can operate in the right half space or central zones, allowing him to play between the lines. Now, on top of that, he's also exceptional and incredibly underrated defensive work rate. He's aggressive when he's pressing, tracks back well, and covers a large amount of the ground. I mean, if I'm being honest, 45 million to 50 million for a player of his ability and experience doesn't come round often enough. So sometimes you've got to snap these opportunities when they come round. Now, I would love to sit here and continuously bring in the next Bruno, but considering the way this summer has gone, and with Champions League football next season, we need players that can make an immediate impact. And that's exactly what you get with Lucas Paquetá. But I want to hear your thoughts. Would you welcome him at St. James's Park? And just think what Eddie Howe can do with them as well. Eddie Howe knows how to get the best out of these players, and we've seen that over the years. So I generally do believe that we will have a strong end to this summer, and there will be a lot more positivity coming out in Newcastle United fans going into next season. I will be doing a review to Aston Villa coming up at some point this week, maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday. So that's going to be exciting. But I want to hear your thoughts. What do you make of this video? Do you agree with anything I've said? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below. But if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, away the lads.